Hi, everyone. It's great to be back at Playtime today. If we haven't met yet, my name is Tammy Taw, and I'm a growth consultant on the Google Play partnerships team. So lately, we've been hearing a lot about subscriber fatigue and that people are tired of subscriptions. I know we're all in the subscription business here today, but raise your hand if you're also tired of paying for subscriptions. Don't worry, I won't tell your bosses. So, is this sentiment around subscriber fatigue apparent with Google Play buyers? We'll take a closer look at subscriber behavior on Play and dive into some of the trends we're starting to see across subscription apps. So, let's first look at subscriber frequency per buyer over time as a measure of fatigue. Across Play apps, subscriptions per buyer have been increasing over the last 5 years, and we still see year over year growth. This chart graphs the average number of subscriptions per buyer by region for each year since 2019. And you can see that there's an upward trend in each region, especially so in North America, represented by the green line. In APAC and EMEA, in blue and red respectively, both regions had an upward spike in 2023. And while LATAM is lagging behind peers, there's still a notable increase in frequency over the years. This subscriber frequency per buyer trajectory signals that there may not be subscriber fatigue after all. Yet, the general sentiment is that people feel overwhelmed and tired and frustrated by the increasing number of subscription businesses out there. And they're not wrong. Within mobile apps alone, there are quite a number of apps to choose from. In fact, there are over 10,000 subscription apps available on Play today. The price of subscriptions across all categories averages about $8 a month, which doesn't sound like a lot when you think about one subscription, but multiplied by the number of concurrent and digital and non digital subscriptions a user might have, that can really add up. So, in addition to your wallet, you have to consider how your time is being used among the apps you pay for. So, remember, David said that buyers are more engaged in apps than non buyers. And some apps let you multitask. Think about a music app, for example. You don't need to really pay attention to what's on your screen. You can multitask with multiple apps, and you don't need to really need to pay attention mentally either. But on other apps, you need to take up 100% of your device real estate as well as your undivided attention. So at some point, utilization goes down. And when that happens, buyers reconsider the value they're getting from your app for the subscription price they're paying. And a buyer holds on to a given subscription for about 5 renewals periods before they eventually churn. So these days, there's practically a subscription for every aspect of our lives. For this presentation, I audited my own active subscriptions that I have in and out of Play. So raise your hand if you're like me, if you've had or have a subscription in all of these categories. 5 of these categories, maybe? Okay. So when I subscribe, these subscriptions are based on my current needs and life goals. I tend to subscribe and cancel these subscriptions cyclically. I see value intermittently and resubscribe depending on my needs, but not on an ongoing basis. So today, we'll focus on subscription trends on apps in the Play Store, and namely what happens after a subscriber churns and what subscription trends are starting to emerge. So, if most people are like me, we're a bit fickle to our events, we likely can't financially hold or just don't see a lot of value on keeping a ton of subscriptions concurrently. The important part is that a percentage of your subscribers do return to your app. So, albeit a 7% average is a small percentage of returned buyers today. But I believe over time, this resubscriber rate can increase. So, over a 5 year lifetime, we see about users' subscription frequency in the same app about 1.4 times. And churn buyers on average take 79 days to resubscribe to the same app. And when these users come back, their long term 5 year LTV increases by 56%. So if you can increase that 7% resubscriber rate to just a few more percentage points, that's a lot of incremental LTV per subscriber off the bat. So, for the rest of this presentation, I want you to focus on your resubscribers and resubscriber trends you're starting to notice in your app. If you focus here, what should you consider? What tactics can get buyers to come back more regularly, even when they've churned? And just don't think about ongoing utilization. Think about personalizing that user journey with each visit. So consider various onboarding and re onboarding flows for segmented buyer cohorts. For example, an onboarding flow for a new buyer should look different for a churned buyer. And then next, acknowledge that buyers will eventually churn from that initial subscription and that these churned buyers may come back as a resubscriber. If we acknowledge this cycle, how can you give your returning buyers more agency when they reconsider? Meaning, can you offer some flexibility with the right product promotions at that very moment when your churn buyers may need your product again? Lastly, how can you highlight value continuously so that buyers hold on to a subscription as long as they can? And then when they eventually do cancel, churn subscribers consider your app again when they're ready to resubscribe. So, fortunately, we learned from David that buyers are 6 times more likely to come back to your app than go elsewhere. So, how can you be part of that influencing decision? How can you influence that resubscriber decision with extrinsic motivators like discounts to get them to resubscribe? And then, how can you reiterate intrinsic value by quantifying that user experience, that premium user experience? We'll start with the importance of extrinsic motivators to get your users to subscribe and see how intrinsic motivators can help prolong a given subscription before a buyer churns. So, this chart highlights year over year trends on how a subscription started. The different shades of green represent whether an order started with a trial, a discount offer, or no promotion at all. You'll notice shifts in the color distributions each year. The shifts indicate some market maturity. For example, you can see that trial starts are growing smaller each year. This is likely because users are no longer eligible for free trials, or developers are finding other ways to recognize revenue sooner. You can also see that discounted offers are growing year over year ever so slightly. When looking at a 60-day install to paid conversion ratio, discounts actually perform 2 times better than trial starts. And since discount offers convert users so well, let's dive into the performance of them across different SKU lengths. So this is where I think diversifying SKU mix is important. If you don't have more than 2 SKUs, consider different SKU lanes. So let's first look at the weekly SKU. This drives about a third of users to subscribe within the first 60 days of install. And while the overall LTV I admit is the lowest, their LTV on a per day basis is the highest. Now let's look at the 6 month SKU. This drives the highest overall LTV and highest 60-day install to paid conversion ratio. Almost half of users convert on that 6 month SKU within the first 60 days of install. So while the weekly and the 6 month SKUs are not quite popular among developers, we are starting to see a growing trend in developers testing and offering these SKU lanes and subsequent interest from buyers. So remember, discount offers don't just apply to net new users. You can use discount offers for resubscribers and even upsell existing subscribers with discounted upgrades to a longer SKU plan. So before we dive into a few more data slides, I have a few category benchmark slides that look like these throughout this presentation. The categories will always be listed on the right in alphabetical order, and we'll be comparing the median with the 75th percentile. So this benchmark table highlights how long a buyer keeps a given subscription for. You'll see across most categories, most buyers keep their subscription only 1 to 3 renewal periods. However, the 75th percentile keeps buyers keep their subscriptions up to 7 to 10 times in a handful of categories. So my tip here is motivate your teams to understand your top percentile cohorts. What are the 75th percentile and the 90th percentile users doing in your app differently than the rest? Are they engaging in different content? Are they using different features? And how can you use these signals to encourage median buyers to behave like your top buyers? So, here are some examples of how to intrinsically motivate your buyers to stay in a subscription longer. Explicitly show buyers the premium value they're getting in your app. So, the first on my right, on your left, sorry about that. Quantify the content buyers consumed in your app. For example, highlight the number of books they've read in a given month. And then on the second screenshot here, highlight how your app helped the buyer get to their objective faster, whether it's a weight loss journey or finding a suitable partner in dating. 3, make your buyers feel more connected to the creator they're contributing to by aggregating altruistic stats. And then finally, in the last example, take all these useful signals and reward the user for hitting premium milestones by offering a discount on their next purchase or renewal. So, all subscriptions do come to an end, and churn is inevitable. From stated cancellation surveys, most churn buyers state that they cancel because of cost related issues or not enough usage, which to me equates to lack of value. If you add these two buckets up, that's about 70% of users who don't see value in your app the moment they cancel. So, as a reminder, stated cancellation responses can be found on your Play Console dashboard. Head over there to learn more on why your users are canceling their subscriptions. So, how can we take these tired churn subscribers and motivate them to resubscribe? Before we look at tactics, let's first look at some Play resubscriber trends. This benchmark table looks at the percent of resubscribers that come back to the same app across top performing apps in each category. Here, we're comparing the resubscriber rate of median apps versus the 75th percentile. You'll notice that in some categories, the top performing apps get a third of users to resubscribe. So, what best practices can you learn from your existing subscribers that can push up this KPI? Aside from understanding what other apps are doing differently, consider surveying your buyers. Ask your buyers why are they coming back. Ask your resubscribers why they came back, and ask your churn buyers what might get them to return. Is it content? Is it a discount? Now let's look at a number of days it takes to a user to resubscribe. When we look at the median, most users take about 2 months. However, the most eager users, the 75th percentile, come back within 2 weeks. Interestingly, music and audio have the shortest return window. The most eager resubscribers come back in just 3 days. And so when I thought about this, I thought, why are you music users coming back so quickly? And my guess is that that free experience is riddled with ads that they quickly second guess and go back to subscribing. So look at your data. What are the drivers that get eager buyers back so quickly? Can subscription skew diversity and discounts shorten the number of days to resubscribe or even prevent churn to begin with? So when a churn buyer opens your app the next time, they're likely only in your app for a few moments. So here are a couple tactical ways to really take advantage of those moments. Summarize the value of that last premium experience, create some fear of missing out the next time they open your app as a non-subscriber, and allow churn buyers to set notifications on when they like to be reminded to resubscribe. Is it when certain content is released or when you've finally added a new feature? And then what kind of limited free experience can you offer churn subscribers, especially if you're a hard paywall? Can you encourage resubscription with a metered or gated experience for these users? And then when your churn buyer is out of your app, where are they? How can you signal new features and limited time content to them? What communities are your app relevant in? How can you collaborate with influencers of those communities to broadcast Easter eggs, new features, and or content? In addition to user acquisition strategy, create excitement via word of mouth to get churn buyers back in. So, how can you influence buyers to what are other tactics you can influence buyers to return? Let's start by acknowledging that not everyone can hold a subscription for long periods of time. And honestly, that shouldn't be your only goal. If you recognize there's interest and likelihood to come back, then you can build a strategy that creates cyclical behavior. So let's take a quick look at user experience and subscriber frequency. Honda is going to elaborate more in the next presentation about what these user experience buckets are. And at a very high level, we classified thousands of apps into user experience buckets to better understand subscriber behavior and motivations. This chart looks at the percentage of users with 2 or more subscriptions in 2023. So when we slice the subscription per buyer frequency by user experience buckets versus categories, we notice that there's a higher percentage of subscribers with multiple subscriptions with of apps that have a lean back experience, such as watching TV. Additionally, leaned in experience with features like messaging, tooling, and video chat experiences also have a larger share of subscribers with 2 or more subscriptions in a year. So consider these additional features in your app to drive up subscription frequency. This chart looks at buyer LTV per category. Inclusive of all resubscriptions over the last 5 years, overall subscriber LTV is at least 50% greater than the median. The 75th percentile LTV is at least 50% greater than the median buyer across all categories. So, what insights can you glean from these top buyers and replicate with the median? To increase long term LTV, consider personalized intrinsic and extrinsic motivators for each buyer cohort. So, for intrinsic motivators, consider different user journeys for different buyer states. A new buyer should have a different experience than a retained, disengaged buyer or a churned buyer. So, for a new subscriber, they might want to see how best to utilize your app and what premium features are most popular among buyers. For a retained, disengaged buyer, they might not be so sure they should keep subscribing. So, how can you remind them of features they once utilized and thought were valuable? And then for a churn subscriber, again, remind them what they've accomplished during that last paid experience. So, if intrinsic motivators don't work, try extrinsic motivators. How can you create excitement with dynamic pricing and paywalls for each of these buyer cohorts? For example, what complementary monetizable features can a new subscriber buy? And when someone is already paying, but you notice a hint of disengagement and that they might leave, can you entice them with a limited time discount on that next renewal or even upsell them to a longer plan? And for a churn subscriber, can a limited time discount entice them to resubscribe sooner? So, to summarize, how can you better manage your subscriber lifetime journey with an in app lifecycle marketing strategy across the most valuable subscriber cohorts? You all put a lot of amazing effort on lifecycle marketing tactics to get new installs, get them to subscribe, and also prevent churn with win back strategies, which are all understandably important. However, as your subscription business matures, what percent of your lifecycle marketing strategy is focused on churned subscribers? As these returning buyers are on average 56% more valuable when they do come back. So, my main takeaways is this: don't disregard your churn buyers completely. Instead, explore these 3 initiatives. Understand subscriber cohorts and get churn buyers to come back more regularly by customizing that experience for them. Then acknowledge and encourage cyclical purchase behavior across cohorts and utilize dynamic intrinsic and extrinsic motivators to ensure buyer cohorts see continuous value over time. So you're probably asking, where do I start? Consider these 3 initial action items. 1, analyze what percent of your subscribers come back today. Remember, the 75th percentile can get almost a third of users to resubscribe. And then ask your team to track time to resubscribe and find tactics to shorten time to resubscribe. So, as a reminder, most users come back in about 2 months, but the most eager come back in 2 weeks. By understanding the length of time, you can test whether it's intrinsic motivators or extrinsic motivators are needed to shorten the time to resubscribe. And then lastly, track subscriber LTV over a longer period of time, say 3 to 5 plus years. How much additional value are these resubscribers bringing you? By doing this, you can understand which subscriber cohorts are the most important and plan tactics accordingly. For example, knowing this LTV is also helpful in deciding the discount percentage you're willing to give to this subscriber cohort. So, tracking these three KPIs will give you insights that will enable exploring new strategies, testing different tactics, and measuring success over time with the overall goal to increase your resubscribers, shorten time to resubscribe, and increase long term LTV. I hope this topic provided some light at the end of the tunnel that some subscribers are here to stay for the long term. As the market matures, there are opportunities for developers to not only focus on getting net new subscribers, but keeping existing and past subscribers happy and subscribing cyclically over a longer period of time. If you've proven that your product provided value the first time, you surely can get your churn subscribers to return to your app over and over again.